Çok teşekkürler. Welcome everyone. As we are experiencing unusual times due to the COVID-19 pandemic today, at the last session of the first day, we have a very special topic named Accelerate Your Success in Challenging Times, Prove Your Credibility and Proficiency with CIA Designation. The panel will be in English, but first I would like to say a few words in Turkish for our Turkish audience, and then I will continue in English. Herkese merhaba. Öncelikle başarınızı zor dönemlerde hızlandırın, itibar ve uzmanlığınızı CIA ünvanıyla kanıtlayın konulu panelimize. Hepiniz hoş geldiniz. Umarım herkesin sağlığı yerindedir. Panelimiz İngilizce olarak devam edecek. Ancak başlamadan önce sizlere merhaba demek istedim. Welcome again. Thanks for joining us today. Hope each of you attending the conference are healthy and safe. First of all, I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate IIA Turkey's 25th year and thank my colleagues at IIA Turkey's board, office staff, volunteers, and sponsors who made this beautiful conference happen in this very special year, despite all negative effects of COVID-19 pandemic. And today we are going to discuss how internal auditors can accelerate their success in challenging times like pandemic and the importance of globally recognized CIA designation in this journey. For me, it's a great pleasure to moderate this panel, and I'm very excited to have our distinguished panelists here with me today. I would like to thank you all again. Very briefly, a word about me and the panelists. My name is Mustafa Sönmez. I'm a board member at IIA Turkey, head of internal audit at IIA, and also a member of IIA Global's Professional Certifications Board. And we have a very special guest from the Institute of Internal Auditors, Dr. Lily B. Lily, as you may know, before COVID-19, we were planning to host you in Turkey, but due to the COVID-19, we couldn't do it for this year, but hope to see you next year in Turkey in better days. And Lily serves as the Senior Vice President of the IIA Certification and Global Development. She leads all aspects of the IIA's global certifications, exam development, and provides the strategic direction to all certification programs, impacting over 300,000 candidates and certified individuals around the world. And Lily holds CIA, QAL, CRMA, and CISA certifications and has 30 years global experience in internal audit, risk management, IT, and business management. And we have Şenol Toygar. Mr. Toygar is one of the past chairs of IIA Turkey and one of the first CIAs in Turkey as well. He is currently a member of IIA Turkey's High Council Board and also serving as the chair of Standards and Certifications Committee. He has more than 30 years of professional experience and established and coordinated internal audit departments at several holding companies and currently working as senior manager at Turkish Economy Bank's Accounting Control Department. And he holds CIA and CRMA certifications. And we have Uluhan Kumru. Uluhan is a board member at IIA Turkey and works as the Group Internal Audit Director of Anadolu Efes Brewery Company. Uluhan has experiences in business models and internal audit practices in financial services, retail, airport, and FMCG sectors. He's a CIA and CPA and has been involved in audit projects in many different countries and sectors. So, following this brief introduction, I would like to start the panel with Lily. As we step into a new era and considering the importance of globally recognized IIA certifications in internal audit's career, Lily will share a presentation with you first, and then we will discuss a few questions with the panelists. Throughout the panel, please feel free to submit your questions through Q&A window to all the panelists or a specific person, and depending on the time we will have, we will try to answer a few of them at the end of the panel. So Lily, it's a great pleasure having you here. Thank you again, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mustafa. Good afternoon. Greetings to all of you. And as Mustafa introduced, I was hoping I could have met you this time in person, but global pandemic changed everything we do. Our life, our work, everything. It changed everything, changed the profession. So, but I'm a strong believer that there is no tough time, but only tough people. That has been my motto. That has been our way from the IIA Global to support all the internal auditor like each one of you around the world. I first want to congratulate to IIA Turkey for the 25 great years. It is a great success, and internal audit profession could be a young profession. Even in the IIA, we have just about 80 years, right? So 80 years to a human being could be a senior person, but 80 years for a profession, we are still a relatively younger profession. But we are a global profession. That's one of the topics I wanted to discuss and share. And the CIA designation being the #1 flagship certification for all internal auditors around the world. And also the CIA certification and the IIA's international standard are very much correlated. I wanted to share some thought on that as well. Of course, I'm happy to answer together with my panelists to answer any of your questions you may have today or maybe even in the future. So first of all, the IIA being a global profession, global organization, and we serve your global profession. If you're thinking about the global profession, the word global, truly there are not many professions a global profession. If you're thinking accounting profession, I think some of you probably have a great deal of accounting background, which is really having great value for internal auditors, but that's more of national level, right? In United States, in our case, it could be at the state or provincial level. Each province has their state, has their own accounting regulations, right? They have a national level, lawyer, the medical degree. I practice medical degree in United States, I probably cannot practice in Turkey, right? So those are really national profession. But internal audit professions are global profession. The reason we can proudly say that is we have one single set of global international standard for the practice of internal auditing. We also have one single set, it's not necessarily one set of a global profession. I'm going to touch both of these two key elements of the global profession. And we practice almost the similar way according to the standard, wherever you are in the world. I practice internal auditor in United States, in Singapore, in Japan, and in China. So I do know, I'm pretty sure Turkey is the similar way from the way that your passion towards the certification, I can tell, we practice really in many sense, in many similar ways, according to our standard. So there's still a lot of myths about the internal audit profession. I wanted to highlight some of them. You probably can share more from Turkey and some of the facts and what are the actual facts from what I see. Many people still believe, because internal audit profession may be a relatively younger profession, they think internal audit and external audit are the same. I know many of you attending the conference, you will tell them how different we are. One of the most significant difference is we audit anything under the sky. Anything we see the risk in the organization, we have the right to audit. External audit, the focus is on the financial, on the taxation, right? So that's a significant difference, the broader scope in our job. And also all internal auditors can come from accounting background. I think that's no longer a truth anymore. In United States, the case, most of the internal auditor, if you ask them 20 years ago, they may be from accounting profession, but today is no longer the same. I am myself, I'm not from accounting profession. I was, in fact, I had more than 10 years in IT. Literally system engineer and system development project management. Then I become IT auditor and internal auditor. I don't mean the accounting background is no longer important. It is absolutely important. I'm just a strong believer that an internal audit department need to be more diverse. So we need to have a collective skill of knowledge for the department. Somebody has accounting, somebody has an IT, somebody understands the business. So the collectiveness of the internal audit, the diversity of the internal audit department is the most fundamental fact and the key success factor for the internal audit department. And obviously, the internal audit, as I mentioned, is the distinct profession. We have our standard, we have our certification. And one thing in the recent last years, we have IIA global survey. We call that pulse of the internal audit profession. Less than 25% of internal audit, our job, are allocated to finance-related risk. So that means more than 75% are allocated to something else. Let's hear what our CEO and President Richard Chambers said to the audit committee. This is from one of his blog a couple of years ago. So he wrote this blog, this towards the audit committee. He said, "Dear audit committee, we know external auditors are more important to you than internal audit. However, the most lethal risks to shareholder value are no longer financial. They are strategic, business, operational, and compliance risk. Guess who audit those risks? You all know the answer. You do, and we do." And this is on the right-hand side. This is another ad I seen probably more than 5 years ago. I'm really pleased that I do not see this type of job advertisement as much as I did before. So this company is hiring a senior internal audit. They asking the person have a number of responsibility to be able to plan the internal audit, conduct internal audit, interview, field work, and document the audit finding, communicate the audit finding, recommendation, and follow up through the audit recommendation, audit finding. And they mentioned that in the experience section, the company says that I want somebody that has more than 5 years external audit experience, Big Four preferred, and or internal audit experience. Obviously, they believe we are the same. Either or is okay. And the last portion, as the head of global certification, I'm pretty upset. It says that the CPA is required. CPA is the great esteemed designation around the world, but it is not certified internal auditor. It's on top of that, there are many additional knowledge and skill is required to practice internal audit. So I think in the current situation, at least in United States, you can tell me the situation in Turkey. We typically see that we say CIA or CPA or CISA is required. It's getting much better, right? But it's probably not to the stage we wanted to see. And so this is some number I wanted to share. The CIA around the world. And we have more than 170,000 CIA around the world. This is the month-old number from last month this year. And among those, the number one highest region is in Asia Pacific. The second highest is in North America. While you probably would understand the population in Asia Pacific, 60% of the population reside in, Asian Pacific. And also people are very determined in Asia Pacific as well. The third one is really European country. I believe Turkey is in this number, is included in that. I see the highest growth of the CIA, number of people who apply, number of people who register and sit for the exam in Turkey. This is the highest in European country. So I am very motivated with the IIA Turkey board and with each one of you that working towards the certification. I believe we have a close to, with all certification, close to 2,000 in Turkey itself. I'm pretty sure the number will go much higher and higher. So what is exactly CIA, right? Some people believe the CIA is just the exam. Somehow the slide, should I do the full screen? The slide all combined together, it mess up the format. Should I do the full screen? Will that be better? Oh, it doesn't change? Okay. So there are actually 4 elements. Mustafa, would you like to say something? And I'll hear you. I can talk you through, no problem. So the CIA, there are 4 E's. The first one is the exam that everybody thinks the most important. The second one is the education requirement. You need to build on top of the certain education. Typically, people have the bachelor degree. And the third one is the experience requirement. So the CIA is not purely test somebody's ability to memorize. Memorize equals to knowledge. Memorization doesn't equals to the skill. So the experience is critical. That's the third element. The number 4 element is the ethical requirement. That is the requirement for all the certification candidate. That is also the requirement for people who uphold the CIA designation. So among those, because we're all focusing on the exam, I want to stay a little bit focused on that as well today. We know we have a 3-part CIA exam, with part 1 being 125 questions, 2.5 hours. Part 2 and part 3, we have only 100 questions. These are all multiple choices question. It's only 2 hours. So let me share each part of the CIA exam. From my perspective, Mustafa knows that very well, because at that point of time, we were working very closely together on the exam blueprint, exam syllabus, right? So we refreshed that last year and we put that into Turkish, I believe mid-late last year, 2019. So the exam syllabus being the first elements, just like you go to the college, you have a curriculum, right? How we prepare the exam question, what is our criteria, what is our foundation? That is the syllabus. We stay within the syllabus. Part 1 is the essential of internal audit. Part 1 really focusing on being. Part 2 is focusing on doing, right? That is why part 1 is very much related to the attribute standard. I apologize on the screen. Somehow the format is not in the nice way. So, but I can explain. I'm pretty sure you know all our standard very well. You remember we have a 4 series of attribute standard. The purpose, the authority, and responsibility. That is for all the internal auditor for us to exist. And it has the reporting line. It has many things. It included, everything is included in the internal audit, your department charter, right? And the independence of internal audit department and the objectivity of each individual internal auditors are the second part of the standard, 1100 series. The third part is 1200 series of the standard is talking about each individual's proficiency and internal audit department's collective proficiency, and also due professional care when we do the internal audit, how we should conduct with professional care, with due diligence. And the 1300 of the standard is the quality assurance and compliance program, quality assurance improvement program. And there is the one more added, is hidden somewhere in the slide, is the performance standards 2100, is the governance, risk management, and internal control. All of these elements is included in the 6 domains of the part 1 of the CIA exam. So the part 2 of the CIA exam is called Practice of Internal Audit, is very much in sync with all the performance standards. That's why you see the 2200 series of the standard is how to do things, how to plan, conduct the audit, communication, report. Everything in that is in the part 2. So the standard and the CIA is very much in sync. And the part 3 of this the CIA exam probably does not have a lot of connection with our standard, though our standard is foundation of everything we do. right? Part 3 is the core knowledge of skill, everything we do as the internal audit. Well, I would not say everything is we do. If you're working for a government, probably some uniqueness in your government is not included, right? We cannot include all the government uniqueness in the standard. If you're working for financial services or pharmaceutical company, you do have your industry specialized knowledge. However, there's some generic common knowledge, how to set the strategy. What is the common business process? What is the performance measure? The KPI each company is using. They are all included in the first domain of business acumen. The most key element in part 3 of the CIA, you can call that IT related. It's about 45%, could be 50% of the CIA Part 3 exam is related to the IT. Data analytics, data privacy, ITGC, general control, and IT application, ITAC. Cybersecurity, probably on top 3 risk of every single one of your organization, right? So that is definitely tested in Part 3 as well. So we said then why CIA? We understand they have a lot of good knowledge and skill. And what is in that for me? I'm sharing 2 the conversation I had with this. The first one is Raul, and he is from Middle East actually, and he's currently a CIA, of course, and he's also the chief audit executive. He said the CIA designation speaks on my behalf. When I put the name after me, it speaks on my behalf. I don't have to tell people what I know. As any recruiter will tell you that if 2 candidates have similar knowledge and background, the preference is always go to those people who have a designation. And he also say earning the CIA provide additional credibility and demonstrate that my knowledge in the field of internal audit, it also pushed me to deepen my skill and obtain my knowledge due to continuous professional education, right? Once you have a CIA, we require continuous professional education. This seems to be begging the question, why not pursue certification? We asked why pursue certification. He came back to say, why not? And we have this lady, April, she is in the United States working in the banking industry. She told us that I was recently promoted to chief internal auditor. I have been working for the bank for close to 20 years. Only being in internal audit department approximately 7 years. I feel that this certification make me more successful and respected. That's a key word in my career, in the current job. The IIA certification has strengthened the skill level in the IIA standard, as well as executing the internal audit plan. And this helped me to understand and execute the audit engagement by leveraging the professional knowledge and give me the confidence and helping me to be more objective. So I'm not reading every single line she said. So all these chief auditors tell us their story that they get the CIA, they get promoted. I don't mean everybody will be promoted, but you can trust me at certain point of your career, you will be rewarded by your commitment to the professional designation. I just want to spend very short time to mention that there are other IIA designation. One of them being the internal audit practitioner designation, and we just refreshed it last month, and it's getting into the very fundamental basic level. You may be able to use the word, it may be easier than CIA. It is. It's 1 part exam, and it's 2 hours and multiple choices question, right? You have 2 years to finish this designation. However, this designation gives you 3 years validity. After that, we want to make sure we continue the journey to get the CIA. So this is the internal audit practitioner, and we made it very cost effective. You can find it very attractive in terms of the price. And also the IIA recently released the internal audit competency framework. And you can see there are 4 domains in that competency. The professionalism is very much related to CIA Part 1 and also the attribute standard. The performance is really doing the work related to Part 2. And the environment is about the environment you work in, the industry you work in. And then the last domain is leadership and communication. A lot of them is for audit management or for CAE as well. This set of competency framework is from beginner level, excuse me, to the chief auditor level. So when you open that, you can see there are 3 different levels. You can choose your own career path. You can identify the gap where you want to be. So achieving the certification is easy. 3 steps. First one is you apply. After that, you register and sit for the exam. Then you become certified and maintain your designation. So currently, we also have, of course, the CRMA designation, Certification in Risk Management Assurance. That is the certification for internal auditors. I understand some of you work for the second line, and you can obviously taking that designation as well. So I'm pleased to inform that because of the COVID-19, many test center has been closed. So the IIA offered, starting from May, we offer online testing. So from the safe and comfort of your home and your office, you can now take the exam. Of course, we will have a proctor that monitoring during the journey to make sure we preserve the integrity of our certification. So with that, it comes to my conclusion of today's presentation. With the speed of disruption, it's not only the COVID-19, the technology disruption, the artificial intelligence, the many things disrupt everything we do, right? So I wanted to make sure each one of us continue our journey to become a competent professional. And through this global certification, we will continue refresh and readjust to meet your need. And with that, I welcome your question. I thank you for today's opportunity.
Thank you, Lily. Thank you for the great presentation. Your last slide reminded me of Richard Chambers' last book named Speed of Risk. And now I have a few questions for our panelists. Let's start with you, Mr. Şenol Toygar. Mr. Toygar, as one of the past chairs of IIA Turkey and one of the first CIAs in Turkey, we would like to hear from you a brief history and importance of CIA designation in Turkey. And we would also appreciate if you can inform us on how your CIA designation affected your career. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. CIA process in Turkey has begun in year 2000. At that time, the paper and pencil exams were held twice a year in May and November, and the English exam booklets came from the US as hard copy. As the exams were not in the native language in Turkish, the number of people seated for the exams was very limited, like 20 to 30 people per exam period. Parallel to the developments in the world, the importance of managing corporate risks had also increased in Turkey. With an increased level of awareness in corporate risk management, the profession of internal audit became increasingly important. As a result, the CIA certification, in my opinion, which is an indicator of professionalism and competence in the internal audit profession, was becoming more and more important. So, supporting this increased importance and as a response to the demand, especially in the government sector, CIA exams were translated into Turkish as a project of TİDE in 2005, and the number of people sit for the exams increased to 400. That had represented an increase of 10 times compared to the previous exams before the translation. In 2008, together with the IIA, we switched to the computer-based testing, CBT, and then with the rapidly changing world, the certification process has changed and evolved with its every phase. Today, certification has become a requirement rather than a privilege, and along with exams, study materials and many training classes are offered to all members, colleagues, and stakeholders by TİDE as a service. For the second part of question, personally, I benefited a lot by becoming a CIA. That was nearly 20 years ago, but I was one of the first maybe 20 CIAs in Turkey. This designation is incredibly prestigious and gives you a genuine confidence and responsibility together with it. You work with a sense of dedication to the profession to value it, and even the process of preparing for the exams teaches you many things and your perspective changes. My advice to all practitioners is that they should be a CIA so that they will be more powerful internal auditors, in my opinion. I think that is brief, so using time efficiently, I think that is enough.
Thank you, Mr. Toygar. Thank you very much for sharing your experiences. And now I would like to ask the next question to you, Uluhan. As a value-added function within an organization, a key function of internal audit is to foster improved organizational processes and operations through adding value. So what do you think are the main values provided by internal auditors during the COVID-19 pandemic?
Mustafa, thank you so much. And by the way, you're pursuing a wonderful moderation. Congrats on that. Referring to your question, well, obviously we had gone through a very unusual period during this time. I can say that as internal audit, our response to the pandemic has been twofold. Number one, we sought ways to establish working capabilities within the internal audit. Especially at the very start of the pandemic, you would remember that it has struck our part of the world around like February, March. And during these times, we thought that we need to establish new working capabilities because the environment has been changing drastically. And this mainly included establishing virtual working capabilities, revisiting the 2020 internal audit plan, which we were still at the beginning of the year, and determining the impact to the control environment. In addition, the first weeks of the pandemic was also a period which gave the opportunity to develop skills as people had more time to focus due to curfews, and therefore they could have the opportunity to allocate more time for professional development. This is apparently the first fold, and the second fold entailed more about which areas should be focus of our efforts under the new working capabilities. So here, the internal audit activities generally chose one out of the two options. The first option was becoming an active part of the crisis and also the crisis management team, and leaving aside all non-vital assurance activity. This was an option. The other option was focusing on areas where we could specifically contribute and keep the service level uninterrupted. So we have taken a hybrid option here. While as a part of the executive committee managing the crisis, we limited our involvement in a more of a monitoring role rather than being a day-to-day part of the activity. Also, on top of that, we have limited some, but not all assurance activity. And last but not the least, we have added new consultancy work, which was mutually designed and agreed with management that would best serve the needs of the time that we have been going through. I think in a nutshell, that would be the appropriate answer for this question.
Thank you, Uluhan. And my next question is for Lili. Lily, I believe that to understand the future of the profession, we also need to look at its past. So what we have learned over the years is that CIA certification is very important to internal auditors organizations as well as their careers. So do you think organizations with more CIAs offered better protection or guidance to their organizations, and these organizations performed well during the pandemic? Thank you.
That's an excellent question. So I think I wanted to answer that in twofold, right? The first fold is I can use the evidence. I mean, we're all internal auditor. I would not to say something I've done the research, academic research or actual research that have the correlation of number of CIA with the company's success. Number one, we cannot define what we mean by company success. So the second fold, I do not have a research to prove that, but let me focus in on the first. So you know that probably IIA Turkey does the same thing. We provide the quality assurance and improvement program, right? We go to the companies, go to your internal audit department and conduct the quality assurance. Then we do the QA services to the company every single year. We would probably, the IIA Global, just the IIA Global staff, right? We do about 100 to 150 of the quality assurance services. Many of them in North America, but there's some time outside North American as well. So we can consider that's pretty global. So every single one of the quality assurance, we can confidently say the internal audit department that has more CIA or focusing on more professional development will get themselves more confident, because that one of the key elements of that QA services is to interview management, to interview audit committee chair or the board member. So you can tell the confidence from our audit client, from our stakeholder to the internal audit department, it's very different for those who have many internal CIAs compared with those they don't. So I can confidently and to say it is positive on the first regard. I also want to add one more point is the CIA definitely gave us the end, right? Gave us some status. But more importantly, I think CIA gave us a mean. So I was not traditional career internal auditor. It gave me a means that, because for many of you may be new, or many of you may be rotational internal auditor. You come in for 5 years and you move to a different area. How do I learn about internal auditor? So the CIA systematically organized all the key elements for the fundamentals for internal audit. This really gave you a mean to learn about the certification, to learn that, to get more knowledge, get more skill, so that you are able to tackle your organizational challenges, right? So we see the organization has been moving from risk focus to more value focus. And the CIA will also focus a lot about the value, what you can do for the organization. So to that regard, I definitely believe more CIA would be able to generate more success to your organization. Hope that helps.
That's for sure, Lily. Thank you very much. So the next question is for Mr. Toygar. As you know, internal auditors should think ahead to stay relevant. So, but few can say they ever prepared for a prolonged slowdown in operations such as the world is experiencing today. And the COVID-19 pandemic is also testing the business continuity plans of all organizations. So what did CIAs do to stay relevant during the pandemic, and did they bring new values to the table?
Okay, thank you. Actually, I want to say something based on my own experience for this year. First, I do not find it necessary to make an assessment or evaluation by considering COVID-19 separately for CIAs and even for internal auditors working in accordance with IPPF and standards. Since CIAs work like preventive doctors of their organizations, they assess how their organizations take precautions against all kinds of risks. and they communicate their recommendations or assessments to all relevant parties, like management, board, audit committee, in order to inform and improve their organization. So I think that COVID-19 and the risks that come with it are not any different from any other risk. As a result, I think the situation has shown, in my belief, as well as far as my experience, show that CIAs and internal audit activities are ready for such situations. And I think that the value of CIAs in the organizations has really been proven. I personally observed that the audit plans were implemented in the case of remote work like this year because of pandemic, as they were, except for minor adjustments this year. And the audit works continued in the same way, of course, with some modifications like no face-to-face meetings, maybe very limited site visiting, etc. And there will be sectoral or industrial differences, that's for sure. We cannot expect a manufacturing company and a financial service company to be in the same context. CIAs should see and evaluate these differences in the industries in which the organization operates to adapt remote working conditions according to this pandemic COVID-19 conditions. The IIA and other organizations have good publications, especially on the impact of COVID-19 sourced risks on internal audit activity, and some of them are translated into Turkish by TİDE. I recommend our colleagues or practitioners to follow the websites of TİDE or IIA and read these resources on these websites.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Toygar. So very well said. I truly believe that the internal auditors work like preventive doctors of their organizations. And I also think that it's for your benefit to use internal audit as a checkup to make sure your business is performing at the best of its abilities. So thank you very much for your great experiences. And the next question is for Uluhan. Uluhan, we all know that COVID-19 has dramatic effects, and the dramatic effects of the COVID-19 pandemic is also leaving its own mark on internal audit as well, according to a new survey from the IIA's Audit Executive Center. So the deep reductions anticipated in all areas as well as internal audit. So my question is, do you think internal auditors and especially the CIAs will play a vital role in their organizations after the pandemic? And how will they be affected?
Well, as Şenol has mentioned, obviously that COVID-19 will not be the last crisis or last disruption that we are going to be experiencing. So it is more on a lateral curve that we can make this analysis upon. While we are surrounded with such uncertainties in the macroeconomic environment, the Audit Executive Center survey that you have referred to, I would like to make a remark on that one. I think that it's very much expected to hit the brake, especially regarding non-vital expenses, and this is throughout the business. The good part is that internal audit was not an exception. Which I mean is that it applies to all functions in an organization, and I can clearly state that in my part of the world, internal audit functions were not severely hit by those measures. Resource restrictions were mainly around travel expenses and consultancy, rather than hitting the fundamental resources of the internal audit activity. So within the last decade, I can clearly say that the benefit of internal audit activity has become very much visible by all the stakeholders, and therefore an internal audit activity well designed and positioned is definitely an integral part of the organization. Going forward, coming to your question regarding the role of the internal auditors played during this period, their flexibility and quick response to areas of increasing concern is valuable. If we are to list these items, I would say that services, especially under cybersecurity, vendor management, especially supplier risk management, financial and regulatory aspects of the new normal, are the areas to continue driving value.
Thank you, Luhan. So in order to use the time efficiently, I will have one more question for Lily and Şenol Toygar, and then I will move to a Q&A session. So Lily, how did COVID-19 pandemic affect the CIA candidates globally? Are there any new challenges or opportunities during the pandemic?
That is very, very challenging. That's an excellent question. So I am touched every day that because I am sitting at the seat to serve each one of you. In March, when I learned, typically we use our Pearson VUE Center. I think Şenol mentioned that you did paper pencil exam. I did paper pencil too. So we moved to computer-based exam. We use about 1,000 test centers around the world, including many in Turkey, right? So in March, I learned that one after another, all closed, starting from China. January, February, everything is closed in China. Then in March, everything is collapsed. So we cannot provide any services in that case, right? People working from home, they are still functioning. Many of them actually wanted to continue the professional development. So working with Mustafa and Professional Certification Board, we say, let's put exam online. That's the first decision. We made it very quickly. We say, meeting tomorrow, let's do that. So I think same as you all do at your work, right? The reaction, be agile. That reaction must be very quick. So we did very quickly. In 5 weeks, I can be very proud to tell you that in 5 weeks, we moved our exam online. Yes, it's English first. Then we added 17 additional languages, including Turkey. In 2 months, all of our exam in all languages, we moved that online. You will not find any other organization that can do that. I can still be proud to say that. So moving very fast. And also the second part is to think strategically, right? What people need as internal auditors. So we wanted to make sure people still gave us the confidence that the security, the exam, the integrity is not compromised. We all internal auditor, we wanted to make sure we assess the vulnerability. So that is another major element we put in from our team, that we have a small, quick team to focusing on the exam security, right? We have all kinds of just in time, all kinds of a measurement to make sure. So we are here to support you. So I can please to tell you in any given years, right? Forget about China is the different part. So in any given years, excluding China, we deliver up more than 30,000 exams around the world, 30,000 in the year. So this year we deliver almost same number of part of exam, and almost 8,000 part. So from that 30,000, almost 8,000 part are delivered through the online testing. So each one of you, your team member, your staff will be able to take the CIA exam online. You can study online. You don't have to be in the office, right? So I think we will continue evolving and we continue support our profession, and whatever the profession need, that's exactly what we will do. Just like internal auditor, whatever the value the company see us to do, that is something we got to do. The mindset is shifting. I mentioned that. I want to mention that again. Shifting from risk-based mindset to value-based mindset. It's probably the same thing to many people, but the mind is different. You want to make sure people see the value. So I wanted to make sure you see the value. That's my job.
Thank you, Lily. I have to say that it's really a great success in such a limited time, and support of the IIA is really great. So thank you for that. And my last question for the panelists is for Mr. Şenol Toygar. Mr. Toygar, what does CIA designation mean for internal auditors' success, even in challenging times like COVID-19 pandemic? And how did COVID-19 pandemic affect the CIA candidates in Turkey?
Okay. Of course, CIA has a great meaning for internal auditors, that's for sure. But regardless of CIA certification, I believe every internal auditor should provide the best service for their organization within the framework of standards and IPPF. That must be so. CIA certification, one, proves to the other parties that the internal auditors perform their work for internal audit activity at the highest level of competence and quality within the framework of standards and IPPF. And secondly, in my opinion, on the other hand, it provides the internal auditor with a distinct self-confidence while doing his job and gives him or her a responsibility for how she or he should do his job. I think these are important elements that make the profession more reliable and increase the added value created to organizations. COVID-19 has provided the toughest testing of these elements, I think. As a result, this pandemic period has serious consequences as a risk to business continuity and sustainability, and the need for CIAs has grown even more, in my opinion. The adaptation of CIAs to this situation and how much they can support the organization they are in has also positively affected the perspective of organizations on internal audit. Applications decreased, I mean the exam applications during this time, especially in April and May. That is what we have seen, at least in TİDE. And the CIA exam in Turkey, because of COVID-19 related restrictions, that is the same situation. But in later months, after May, it has come to back its original state. It has increased even more. For this reason, we can say that COVID-19 has stimulated people for becoming a CIA. Of course, the ability to take the exam online, thank you to the IIA and Lily, has also contributions to this.
Mustafa Bey, mikrofonunuz kapalı. Dolayısıyla sizi duyamıyoruz şu anda. Evet, şimdi duyabileceğiz. Buyurun.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Şenol Toygar. I would like to thank all our panelists. Hope you found the session very helpful. I'm afraid we are running out of the time. Therefore, I would like to have a few questions from the audience before closing the panel. And the first question is, it's better, maybe Lily would like to answer the first question. It looks like a great question for her. Hakan is asking, as a CIA and a CFSA, I believe it is true that designation distinguishes the holder among peers. However, I also think that CIA creates a common understanding about certain aspects of the profession and sets a standard on which internal auditors practice harmoniously all around the world. Therefore, CIA is also a common denominator for all of us. Do you agree with that?
Thank you for that question, and that is the right understanding. Yes, CIA is, as you say, is the fundamental of everything we do for the internal auditor. I would say it is necessary, but may not be sufficient in everything you do. In your own industry, you need to add additional knowledge and skill. Yes.
So the next and the last question from the audience is, let me check it. And the question is, will there be a CIA specialty exam course or any materials we can study from? And will they be also available in Turkish? Would you like to answer the question, Lily, Uluhan, Şenol?
So let me clarify.
I think you have the answer, Lily.
Say that again?
I think you have the answer.
Let me clarify the question. Is that for, you mentioned that CIA specialty. So are you talking about the exam preparation for the CIA exam?
Yes, I think so. I mean, the question is asking if there will be an exam course or any materials for the specialty exam? Yeah, that's the question I understood.
Okay, so there is a CIA learning system that is offered by the IIA training department, and the learning system prepared the people to understand the material and prepare them for the test. I don't think the learning system at this moment, unfortunately, I don't think is in Turkish yet, but it doesn't mean it will not happen in the future. I know IIA Turkey has organized all kinds of seminars to help people to pass the exam. So while we're working together with IIA Turkey, we will figure out a way how to prepare individual to get past the CIA exam.
Thank you, Lily. I think we have a few questions received from the audience, but we have a very limited time. So I wish we had more time to discuss the topic with these distinguished panelists and ask more questions that we received from the great audience. But unfortunately, we are approaching the end of the panel. Before closing the panel, huge thanks to each of our distinguished panelists for their contribution. And lastly, I want to give a final word to each of our panelists. Lily?
I just wanted to thank you, everyone, and thank you for what you do for your organization for elevating the internal audit profession around the world. And you can get my contact information from IIA Turkey. I'm happy to share. If you have additional questions, feel free to reach out to us, and stay healthy and be safe. Thank you.
Thank you for all your support, Lily. And Mr. Ulahan Kumru?
Well, first of all, I would like to thank my colleague Lily for the great contribution and content that she has provided to this part of the session. Sincere thanks to her. And I would like to congratulate each and every member of the Institute of Internal Auditors Turkey, TİDE, for their great contribution and this today's overall session. So it was the first online experience, and I hope the members are also content with the performance of this first trial. So thanks and congratulations.
It's such a unique virtual experience, Ulahan, as you said. And lastly, Mr. Şenol Toygar.
I want to thank Lily for her great contribution to the panel, and also I want to thank you, our valuable board members, Mustafa and Ulahan, and also TİDE for this great virtual event. And I want to repeat my advice to all internal auditors and practitioners to become a CIA that will make them more powerful internal auditors that will add value to their organizations. And thank you all again, and thank you, our presenter, Selim, also.
Great advice, Mr. Şenol Toygar. And thank you all our panelists again. We hope that you found the panel informative, engaging, and more importantly, enjoyable. I would like to thank you all for attending the first day of IIA Turkey's 24th International Internal Audit Conference in a unique virtual conference. Wish you all healthy and safe days. Bye.